pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The announcements. The next regular meeting will be scheduled for Friday, November 18th, 2016 at 9 a.m. at the Community Center, 3500 Edgewater Drive in Sebring. Please silence your cell phones. Consent agenda. Minutes from the regular board meeting of Supervisors held Friday, October the 14th, 2016. I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
And second. Any comments from the board? Apparently none. Any comments from the audience? Okay. Back to the board. Chrissy, call the roll, please.
Supervisor Holbert?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Edgell?
Yes.
Supervisor Camp?
Yes.
President White?
Yes. Okay, the action agenda. Resolution number 2016-10/28-47. A resolution of Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District approving the revised 2017 meeting schedule for the regular meetings of the Board of Supervisors and the district holiday schedule. I need a motion to approve, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, there is two changes on your meetings. One of them is just a typo. Down about the fifth or the sixth item, it says March, it should say April. Behind it, it says 4/7/2017. If you'd make that change on it. And the July meeting, which is an evening meeting, it was set for 6 o'clock. That happens to be right when everybody's getting home. We changed that to 7, if that's okay with everybody. And if we decide, we can change that evening meeting to a day meeting, whatever we decide to do later on. Board, have any comments or any revisions they need to make?
Nope.
Anything from the public? Back to the board. Chrissy, call the roll, please.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Edgell?
Yes.
Supervisor Camp?
Yes.
Supervisor Holbert?
Yes.
President White?
Yes. Okay. Item number B. Resolution number 2016-10/28-48. A resolution of Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District accepting the amended district policy manual. Need a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll make.
Got a motion and a second?
Yes, second.
Okay, before we get into this, I'm going to skip item number 3 on it. We'll omit it for a minute and come back to it. Other than that, we have a change on the 12th item, and page 29 was written at 10,000 apiece, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and item number 12 was just a wording change that they thought was the better. Do any of you have anything else you want changed or any comments for the policy manual besides the item number 3?
Nope.
Nope. Any public comment? Okay. Back to the board. Tanya, do you want to read the paragraph that you wrote, and then we'll go from there?
Yes. Under the recent complaints from a former employee in the Sunshine Law violation allegations, the district has paid legal fees in the amount of $101,308 on behalf of 3 supervisors over the last 18 months. Mr. Miller retained attorney Lon Worth Crow at $200 per hour, in which the district paid $24,128. Mr. Halbeck retained two different attorneys from the firm Carlton Fields Jordan Burt. The per-hour charges were $500 for the former employee complaints and $450 for the Sunshine Law violation allegations, in which the district paid $75,679. Mr. McCullough retained the firm Boswell and Dunlap for a total of $1,500, related only to the Sunshine Law violation allegations. All of the attorneys and the firms were retained and were approved by resolution by the Board of Supervisors.
Okay. Wally, you had a comment, I know, on this, so I'm going to...
I had many comments on this, but the reason I brought not this particular thing up, but was to set some type of limit on the expenses. Some type of limit on the expenses for attorney fees. I think that the fees that we're about to approve or disapprove, whatever, look at, change, were way out of line, especially for a misdemeanor. But they were approved by a former board, and I'll owe sanctity to a former board. And but I think from this point on that we should put a limit on how much we can spend for an attorney. I don't know what the going rates are in Highlands County, but I'm sure David does, especially for misdemeanors or civil. If it's criminal, that doesn't come into play here. And that's why I brought this up, was for that. And then, of course, the numbers started coming in. I didn't know what the numbers were when I brought this motion up, or at least consider it. But so that's the reason I wanted to do. I want to set a limit, a maximum they can do it. I don't even care if you have to put a caveat in there that when you want an attorney or representation, you have to come back in front of the board anyway. And so we can discuss the spatial pertinence there. But for right now, I'd like to see some type of limit put on it that's reasonable for the board members and officials of the district. So that's why I brought it up. I want to discuss that. My first question now is, David, what is the going rate? I know it's going to be between two numbers, but what is the going rate?
I would say for in Highlands County, the majority of the attorneys could be retained between $200 and $300 an hour.
Yeah. Well, I think that's very reasonable. I've seen, as most of you know, that's the business I was in, and even in federal cases, even there were very few misdemeanors, but in the civil cases, the attorneys were charging somewhere around $300. So if you want to discuss that, the numbers being between 200 and 300 as a start, let's go with that.
David, do we need a motion to establish a figure on that, or how do we need?
Yes, we'd have to have a motion to amend the proposed policy as listed. The policy, the legal indemnification policy C-1006 was derived essentially from the old resolution 09-10 and 09-67. It does have a provision in there where the district, basically if a legal representation is going to be provided, there's two options. Either the indemnified party can either have a attorney appointed by the board, or they can request to have their own specific counsel, and that provides that the board has the ability to approve in advance any agreement for legal fees, to pay part or all the legal fees, set a maximum for legal fees. So we could set a maximum hourly rate, we could set a maximum dollar amount. That can be done now, or it can be done, when a request comes in. It's kind of up to you guys. If you'd like to say that, put a dollar amount in there that says, hourly rates between $200 and $300 shall be considered reasonable, we can put that in there. If we want to put a cap of $10,000, $25,000, whatever dollar amount you'd want to put a cap at, and anything beyond that has to be brought back again before the board. We can do that as well.
Okay.
You have those powers already, but I think that if we were to put some dollar amounts in there, that would give some guidance as to what people can expect to be considered reasonable.
Okay. Wally, do you want to make a motion?
Well, I'd like to make a comment on that. There is a difference between putting a $200 to $300 limit and putting a maximum limit. If you put a maximum limit, you do have a guardian there for you saying this is it. That's all we're going to spend. Some attorneys will take a $200 to $300 limit, and when you go through depositions and interrogatories and hearings and motions and filings, and so they can build up a pretty high amount. So you will want to consider whether you want to put a major cap on it or if you want to do the hourly rate. Is that true?
I mean, the way I see it is that if we're setting almost as we're trying to give notice as to what the board is going to be considering reasonable. Right. If the majority of attorneys in Highlands County could be retained for $200, $300 an hour, the board could say, look, if you're going to $200, $300 an hour is what we're going to consider reasonable. If you want to go over that amount, either you're going to have to pay the difference, or you're going to have to come to us for approval or subsequent approval. Same thing with the dollar amount. It's if you've set a dollar amount at $10,000, a lot of it's going to depend on what kind of accusation it is. I mean, if we're dealing with if another sunshine law issue comes up, potentially that could be a $5 to $10 or $1,500 to $25,000 ordeal, depending on the defense. If it's something where a disgruntled employee has just made a allegation that has no merit, it may not require a $10,000 cap. So I think probably the best thing to do would be to set an hourly rate range that the board's going to consider reasonable, so that any indemnified party, which includes board members and members of the district staff, can know if they're coming to the board for this sort of protection, what's going to be considered reasonable.
Okay.
And that being said, then the numbers that I would propose in the motion would be from $200 to $300 per hour maximum, and a $20,000 cap. And if that is met, you have to come back to the board for more approval.
Okay. And that isn't a motion. You need a second.
Yeah, I'll second it, but I want to comment.
Okay.
First of all, I have a question. Tanya, how much of the $101,000 was paid on the other lawsuit for Miller and for Hallbeck?
It's written right here.
The Griffin allegations, no formal, at that time there was no formal lawsuit. They were complaints that were raised to the board at that time. In Mr. Miller's case, $3,900 of the $24,000 was related to the Griffin complaints, and in Mr. Halbeck's case, we've estimated between $8,700 to $10,000. The attorneys in Mr. Halbeck's case, the invoices, started to mix up the different, whether it was Sunshine Law or whether it was Griffin complaints. So I didn't go detail line by line by line on the charges, but that's about what we're estimating related to the Griffin complaints. So the remainder of the $75,000 was Sunshine Law.
Thank you. And I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Edgell, but and I like the cap because to me it's all according to what any of us are accused of or any of our employers are accused of. But to spend $65,000, is that about right, for a misdemeanor, and $2,200 for a misdemeanor, $22,000 for a misdemeanor? I don't know how you can set. I mean, if you put those at $300 an hour, we're still spending a heck of a lot of money for a misdemeanor. I mean, can we just, when we pass this, do we talk when we pass it? And maybe, I mean, there should be a different limit between a misdemeanor and a murder charge or a robbery, or, I mean, I'm baffled that it costs us that much for a misdemeanor. Now, if it had been something a lot serious, but how do we stop all the, even at $200-300 an hour, we're spending a heck of a lot of money for, and one is $1,500 and the other one is $65,000. I mean, I know you don't have the answers, but it's frustrating to people like us that, and I know Mr. Holbig probably wanted good representation, but it's just, and I think he should have had it, but that's ridiculous. I mean, can't we watch something like that, or?
The board has the right to actually put a dollar threshold inside this policy, and then, of course, the person would have to either come to the board for approval to go over and above that. That is an option as well. Is that correct?
Okay. That's what he
You
said.
definitely can do that.
Yeah, and one of the things to consider is this, while this is one of our policies, it is based on Florida statute, and Florida statute does allow protection, indemnification protection to elected officials. Potentially, I haven't done a lot of research into it, but based on my recollection of the statutory language, if the board denies representation or refuses to pay for representation, and that person goes on and obtains their own representation and then is acquitted of whatever it is they've been accused of, they have the ability to come back after the board for that for repayment. So I don't know how that would work out if the board had set what they considered to be a reasonable limit, and that person decided they wanted better representation, went and exceeded that limit, and then were acquitted. Arguably, they might be able to come back with a difference. Arguably, they might not. I haven't done research into the subject.
But just in my mind, I have no qualms with we need to support and defend us and you people. But the difference to me, it's like, wow. And it's hard for me to explain to people of Sun and Lake. I mean, and certainly I have had a lot of questions, but it's just something if we can control here a little better, but that's all. I'm flustered too.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah,
comments?
yes. I've had quite a bit of discussion about this, and I wholeheartedly agree with putting a dollar amount on the hourly rate. I'm not so sure I agree with putting a cap, even though we can come back to the board. It's up to the board at that point in time to say yes or no. Now, certainly, I also believe that an individual should get the representation, the best that they feel is possible for themselves. I've had this conversation, like I said, with some others. If I get sick, I want to go to the best doctor I can go to. If I need legal counsel, I want to go best attorney I want to go to. Nothing against attorneys, but I found these prices just exorbitant as far as the total fees, and it really, really frustrated me. I feel that if somebody wants to if we put a cap at a $300 an hour rate for an attorney, let's say, and they want to hire a $450 attorney, it's just like David, they pay the difference, okay? So I think whatever is reasonable and customary, whatever we come up with on that number, for an hourly rate, I would agree with. I'm not so sure I would agree with the $10,000, $20,000, or even a $30,000 cap, because then it's 100% on the board. You come back, and the board can deny it, and then you're leaving the person, you guys, as well as anybody on the board, out to dry. So that's just my thought.
Okay.
Well, there's no doubt that if someone comes back, let's say if we take this 20, and they come back and knowing it's just going to cost more because the attorneys have more work to do, and we don't agree with it, I'm sure that the agreement can come back, the board member or whoever it is can come back later and get that money from the board by state law. I think that can be done that way. So we're stuck on that point because that in that area, the maximum, I think it's just a warning to the attorneys that it lets them know that we feel this misdemeanor, this which being small civil, isn't worth $125,000. To us, it's worth about $20,000 maximum. To at least let the council know that they can't take us for a ride, and up that river we can't come back down.
Another option, if you're hesitant to set a specific dollar cap, we could just make it that as long as the indemnified party is being represented, it's reviewed at every subsequent board meeting. It becomes an item agenda, not necessarily an action item, but potentially something with a consent agenda, something that gets brought up and discussed, and so that it's not a surprise. After 6 months of representation, oh my gosh, we've got a $100,000 bill that we've got to pay.
Yeah.
Okay. Rick?
Yeah, I think there should be some sort of cap, and that it has to come back to the board for renewal on how far we go with this. I'm all for attorneys' fees being paid for, but I've dealt with attorneys, and sometimes I feel like they just want to keep piling it on, and you get nowhere. But as far as I'm concerned, where we went with this, it just didn't seem like it was, and I don't think that it's really been solved, and we've spent a lot of money, and I'm not real happy with the outcome of this. I think we should really have had an opportunity to have put some kind of cap on it.
Okay. Mike, you got anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
David?
So I think the pending motion right now, there's a proposed amendment to this with a $200 to $300 hourly rate with a $25,000 cap. $20,000 cap. So that's the proposed amendment. You'll need to vote first on the proposed amendment and then on the motion as
We
amended.
got to take it for public comment first, don't we?
Right.
Okay. Public comment? Thomas, you're making a run for it.
Tom Costi, resident. I agree with everything that you guys have said this morning about this, but I think you've already had the ability to do everything that you've discussed without changing the policies that are already in place. It's required anytime anybody is faced with a situation like this, it's required that without this change, it was required that they come before the board for approval. And I think you need to be really careful because, for instance, on this particular case, keep in mind, this project and these attorney fees were accumulating for 6 months before any charges were filed. I hear you talking about misdemeanors, but there were no charges filed until October, and this stuff started in April. As a matter of fact, it was a complete surprise as to who the complainant was when the charges were finally filed. These Sunshine Law violations charges were filed by Michael Wright with the state attorney's office, and it was the state attorney who filed charges. Attorneys had been engaged under the approval of the board starting, I believe, in late April or early May. And the district at that time even was accumulating charges from Norton, Allen, and Blue, who's the district's labor attorney, who was working on this case as well. I don't know if that was included in the $100 and some thousand worth of fees, but employees and supervisors were under discussion with the labor attorney for the district and felt the need, because of charges that had been filed internally between an employee and the general manager, that they felt they needed representation on, because they were being questioned by attorneys, Mr. Koji. And public records requests, it was already aware that a former employee had hired an attorney. and was accumulating records from the district. As it turned out, before the charges were even filed by the state attorney, they had practically, from appearances, perhaps 6 or 8 years of all of the files in the file server at the general office. They went out of here with a lot of information. But it was a mining endeavor in the beginning for 6 months before any charges were filed. And I really think, anybody could find themselves talking with an employee in private in an office and walk away and get charged with sexual harassment, something that could be really serious and even worse, just in a heartbeat. I don't see why you would want to put handcuffs on yourselves when you have already had the opportunity, and we've had supervisors for 40 years in this district who have been indemnified by the district. Why would we want to put roadblocks up in your way to make a decision as the project is flowing? If it got that high before you guys became aware of it, then it's something that should have come before the board during the process, as opposed to waiting until now, a year and several months after the charges were filed. And am I wrong? Did the board not have an ability to set that hourly rate and set a cap the first time this came up under our existing policies?
They did.
So that's my point. I just don't understand why you would want to put a wall up or a roadblock up at this point when you've already got that ability to make those changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else? I'll make one comment back from the board. I agree with the $200 to $300 rate. I don't have a problem with that at all. The maximum on it, I have mixed emotions there. As Tom said, this one got way above that, way before any charges were actually filed. One of the things that happened in this is the fact that attorneys sometimes go for 2 or 3 months before they turn in a bill also. And I know that this one went quite a while before we got a bill, and we got a huge bill when we got one. So back to the board. We need to vote on, read the motion if you would, to vote on. Yep.
There's a motion to approve the policy manual as amended to include the $200 to $300 hourly rate and $20,000 cap on expenses.
Now, can we vote on all of it together, or we have to vote? We have to vote just on the amendment.
Vote to approve the amendment.
That's right. Chrissy, you have to. Okay, he just read it, so I don't need that. Go ahead and call the roll.
Supervisor Edgell?
Yes.
Supervisor Camp?
No.
Supervisor Holbert?
No.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
President White?
No. Okay, so the amendment fails. So we can talk about either if there's a proposed different amendment, or we can vote on the policy manual as included.
Can we come back for another amendment to at least put in the dollar amount?
Yeah, the motion.
Hourly amount. I need a motion for that from somebody.
I make a motion to approve an hourly rate of $200 to $300.
Maximum.
Second?
Second.
Discussion from the board?
If we approve this, we'll be able to do what Tom said. We'll be able to stop this in motion.
You always have the ability. Always have the ability at a subsequent meeting to modify.
And it's up to probably Tanya to tell us, keep us updated at all times. Okay.
Well, it would be up to the. I'm assuming either Tanya or the finance officer to let us know that the bill is reaching a certain point of.
And the policy manual as included already gives the board the ability to approve the actual fee agreement. So that's when a indemnified party comes forward requesting representation. If they're specifically wanting their own representation, they should be bringing a proposed fee agreement that they'll want the board to approve.
Okay. I got another question too, and it's I don't know if it's right for me to ask, but when Tom said we had somebody retain a lawyer before it was okay, that it was approved or not?
Yeah, that was the employee, Mr. Griffin, retained his own counsel. He did not request that the board pay for it.
Okay.
Yes, he did, and it was denied.
At a subsequent date, I thought.
Yeah, it was a subsequent date, yes.
He hired her.
Okay, thank you.
Public comment on the amendment only? Back to the board. Chrissy, call the roll, please.
Supervisor Camp?
Yes.
Supervisor Holbert?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
Supervisor Edgell?
Yes.
President White?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll include the $200 to $300 amendment. Now you can vote on the motion as amended.
Motion as it.
As amended. The $200 to $300 amendment is now included.
Right.
So now we're voting to approve the entire policy manual
Right.
with that $200 to $300 amendment.
Okay. Any other comment on the policy manual itself? Public comment?
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Under 3 minutes this time, Thomas.
Yes, I will. The question I had when you slipped over the initial discussion about this resolution, you mentioned everything is okay except for item 3 that you wanted to talk about. I don't know what got him.
Item 3 was this item we are just presently discussing.
But the thing that I haven't heard anything said about is whether or not any language has changed in that paragraph with regard to the ability of the board, which used to be that the board had the option of going after the fees that have been expended after the case was adjudicated. The way I believe it's written, and David, you can please correct me if this is a bad impression. I believe the way the wording is now, it says that the board shall, if it's adjudicated with a guilty verdict, that the board shall be reimbursed. In the past, I think it was that the board could pursue reimbursement. Is that correct? The reason I bring that up, I believe that there have been cases in the past where a person has been found guilty and the board did not pursue reimbursement. And there's a complete new paragraph, and as I read it, it looked like it is a shall.
It is a shall.
But it didn't used to be in the past, and I haven't heard any discussion about a justification of that change.
I don't know. My recollection of this it was pulled directly from 09-10. I'd have to go back to check to see if there was a change made from a may to a shall. But it doesn't specifically talk about adjudication. It talks about the specific passages in the event that the district has expended funds to provide an attorney to defend indemnities who are found to be personally liable by virtue of actions outside the scope of his or her employment or function, or are found to have acted in bad faith with malicious purpose or in a manner exhibiting wanton disregard for human rights, safety, or property, the indemnities shall be required to reimburse the district for funds so expended.
Well, as an example, Mr. Severino was found guilty of ethics charges, and the district did not pursue that. He was not required to pay that back. I've only been here for a few years. I haven't been here for the 40 that this district has been in operation, but it appears that that's pretty significant change to me. And I've heard no discussion about it, and just to accept a new paragraph that's going to replace an old paragraph without going through all of the various aspects of it, I think is a mistake. Thank you.
I'll do a review to confirm that that's the original language from the 09-10 resolution. That's my recollection, is that this policy, the inclusion of this in the policy was taken directly from the old 09-10 resolution.
Okay. And you'll bring it back then to us, and that
If I'm incorrect and there is some changed language, we'll discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay. Back to the board. Chrissy, you want to call the roll?
Supervisor Hurlbert.
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin.
Yes.
Supervisor Edgell.
Yes.
Supervisor Camp.
Yes.
President White.
Yes. Okay, item C, resolution number 2016-10-28-49. A resolution of Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to approve the budget amendment number 10 to the 2016 budget for the legal fees for Supervisor Miller and Halbig. Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, before the discussion, Tanya or Omar, you want to cover why this is needed?
Good morning, Omar DeJesus, Finance Director. So this budget amendment is an increase in the legal expense line item. During the 15-16 fiscal budget, there was $120,000 allocated for legal expenses. Currently, there's been $171,000 allocated to this line item. So it's over budget by $51,825.45. This in turn has also caused the entire administrative budget to go over its allotted amount, which is no longer in compliance for budget purposes. So when the auditors come at year end, we will have an audit finding if we do not correct or amend this with the budget amendment. So we propose to increase the legal expenses by $83,021. We use this by the sum of the Sunshine Law violations, which documentation has been provided as support for all the expenses paid to Law and Crow for Mr. Miller and all the expenses paid to for Mr. Halbig as well. For the budget amendment, in order to allocate the $83,000, we wiped out the reserve for contingency, which is $45,570, and then the remainder came from prior year fund balance.
Okay. Thank you, Omar. Board, comment? None?
No.
Public comment? Back to the board. Chrissy, call the roll, please.
Supervisor Gilpin.
Yes.
Supervisor Edgell.
Yes.
Supervisor Camp.
Yes.
Supervisor Hurlbert.
Yes.
Yes.
President White.
Item number D, resolution number 2016-10-28-50, a resolution of Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to establish the 2016-17 Assessment Appeal Committee. I need a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, this is a committee set up to take any appeals of the assessment that is out there for the 2016 year. We have Sally Sunderland has volunteered to be to work with this as just a member of the community. Rick had it last year as a member of the board. I know you're up for re-election, Rick, but would you take it, and if something goes terribly wrong there, we'll appoint somebody?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion from the board?
Isn't Omar on this as well?
Yes, Omar is on it, and
From the district office?
I think Tanya's on it. I won't swear to that. Who else is on the board, Tanya?
It'll be Omar, and then one supervisor, and then one resident, so
Okay,
three people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if there's any other residents that would like to apply,
Is Sally here today?
or if Sally's here,
I don't think so. No. We do have a letter from Sally.
Yeah.
I would be interested in serving on this committee. Give us a number that we can reach her. So we do have that in writing.
Okay.
There's no comment.
Anybody from the audience would be interested? Okay. Back to the board. Chrissy? Call the roll, please.
Supervisor Edgel,
Yes.
Supervisor Camp,
Yes.
Supervisor Holbert,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
President White.
Yes.
Should abstain.
Okay. Add-on items.
None.
Petitions and communications.
No.
And staff reports. First of all, golf.
Jim Kurtzborn, General Manager, Sun and Lake Golf Club. Wanted to start out by introducing Liz Barber. Liz, if you would stand up. Liz is our new Director of Sales and Marketing. She comes to us from the Greater Sebring Chamber of Commerce, where she was the President and CEO for the last couple of years. Previous to that, she worked for Hodges University in Avon Park, orchestrating their learning program, and was also an adjunct professor there. And she also has some past experience way back working for Ruby Tuesdays as a trainer for a number of years. So I definitely missed the bar when they said to hire people smarter than you. I think I went way over the top on this one. So it's great to have Liz on board, and I just wanted to welcome her and introduce her to everybody. She's very available if you need help with any banquets or anything at the club. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.
I also wanted to introduce Robin Griffin to anyone who hasn't met Robin. Robin's our superintendent who's over Deer Run. For the last 7 weeks, he's been overseeing our entire operation here and doing a great job. I thought it was from dawn to dusk, but I see him before dawn out there and I see him after dusk. So I don't really know what the job hours are, but Robin, thank you for the great job you're doing for us. Appreciate it. And then I'd also Kent Boggs, if you'd stand up. Kent is running our Turtle Run golf course operation. Kind of a surprise to Kent, but it's official today that you're in charge of our Turtle Run golf course operation. He has come on board with us the beginning of May, just coming over. Actually was in our outside services and has a lot of experience in past golf course maintenance. And he's definitely earned his stripes. The Turtle Run golf course looks great, and we're privileged to have you work here for us. Thanks, Ken. Beyond that, just a couple updates. Thank you to Mike Hurley and his crew for doing a great job on tiling the patio. That turned out really nice. It was a nice upgrade to the club. The golf courses are in good shape. And as you know, before, we've hired Ron Andino as our F&B manager. He's doing an excellent job working with our restaurant staff to try to bring that to even a higher level. One of our major focuses is just the flow of seating and being able to utilize this building. Last year we did 270 outside events, so there's a lot of moving parts, and that doesn't even count. Like last night we had the Hand and Foot Club here with that temporary wall, and then we had River Greens here with 40 people, and then we had the wall up there and had a nice a la carte business. So we're a busy place. That's kind of our niche, the bigger parties, because other places can't handle those. So we take a lot of people from the mobile home parks, the trailer parks, the garden club, you name it. We can seat 20 to 50 people in these semi-private areas, so that's kind of a niche that I think we're able to dominate in the Sebring market. Beyond that, just a little review from the last meeting. Pardon me, kind of losing my voice with a little allergies. We're in the beginning of the membership process, and we are getting a good amount of renewals. Just as an update, unfortunately, our unofficial count from last year is we had 13 members who have passed away. We have gotten 11 of the free family memberships that came with the purchase of property, so they've come in and exercised their option to get a one-year membership by paying a trail fee. And we've had contact from 3 or 4 of those that are planning to join, as full members once that expires. Are there any questions of the golf operation? Great, thank you.
Community service, Tennille?
Good morning, Tennille Drury-Smith, Community Services Director. We have a busy couple of months coming up in the Recreation Department. Tonight is our annual Trick or Trot 5K. So right now we are sitting at just under 200 runners. Not as big as we've had in the past, but still a pretty good turnout. On Monday evening, we have our annual festival, which will be mostly for the kids, and we have our Honda Maze in the community center. And don't forget, trick-or-treating is tomorrow night. So hopefully everyone's prepared for that. Coming up here, actually starting this week, because of Trick or Trot preparations and a series of events coming up, the community center is going to be closed temporarily. We have Trick or Trot, and then we have a special event next weekend, and then we have the election, and then for about 10 days we're going to be repainting the community center, putting in new blinds, and doing a few aesthetic things just to spruce it up a bit. So it'll be reopened in time for the next board meeting. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. The pool hours will be changing in conjunction with the time change. So something we do every year. So we'll be closing at 5:30 versus 7 as we are right now. So that'll hope to happen on November 6th. We will be doing the angel tree again this year. We have 45 children that we've opted to help supply presents for. The tree will be set up in the Island View starting the week. I try to get it up the week of Thanksgiving so that when Thanksgiving dinner is going on, people can go and take advantage of Black Friday prices. So that will be up as well. We are going to participate in the Sebring Christmas Parade again this year as a sponsor. So hopefully y'all come and check us out, and if you're interested in walking with the float, contact me and we'll be happy to take some residents that want to come and represent Sun and Lake. On December 17th, we have our second annual Hula Day. We last year, the past couple years, we've done it at the beginning of December, and I think that people are just starting to get in the Christmas spirit, not really quite there yet. So we're going to try it towards the end of closer to Christmas this year. So we'll see if hopefully we get some good participation. Something that I didn't put up there, we are doing the New Year's Eve fireworks in conjunction with the New Year's Eve party, but of course all residents are welcome. They'll be set off right here over Lake Granada, and they'll go off at 9 p.m. And then January 21st, this will be our third annual community yard sale that we'll be hosting. The past couple years has been very successful. We've had between 70 and 80 homes register. So if you're interested in that, registration for that will be opening in the next couple of weeks. You can just contact the district office. Kayla will be handling a lot of those registrations. So, do you have any questions?
I have one, Tennille.
Sure.
I think it's great what we're doing. It looks like you're real busy.
Yes.
Could you, if it's possible, give me a cost of every one of these things now through on an individual basis on what it costs in the district, just so I know, or we'll know next year?
Yes, typically after every event, I do provide what we brought in and what it has cost us. Okay. I do that analysis.
And I think it'll be great, but it's just something I want to know to see where we are in the cost.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Okay. Thank you, Janelle. Mike, you got anything other than the sheet on code enforcement and security?
We have let me see. We did 1,400 watch orders last month. That's starting to come down now, but that's quite a few we had. And we had 92 citations sent out from code enforcement last month. It's been pretty quiet. We did have a couple problems yesterday, but we're trying to figure out. We had some cars that were left open. Kids went in them and took things out of them last night. So we did send an email out yesterday to lock your cars at night. So just make sure you lock your cars.
Not everybody in Sun and Lake's honest, huh?
They weren't actually Sun and Lake. They were teenagers from out of Sun and Lakes. The sheriff's department actually caught them. There was an email sent out yesterday saying if you find anything on the side of the road, we actually found a pocketbook yesterday that belongs to someone we don't know, but we're going to turn that over to the sheriff's department. So if your cars are broken into, contact us and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Any questions?
No. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
David? General Counsel?
Yeah, the only big real news aside, we did have a couple of, well, at least one that I'm certain of, one of our foreclosures settlement proposal came in, so it looks like that one will be, will be getting paid over, I believe it was a 6-month payoff. The Griffin matter, Mr. Koji submitted a statutory offer of settlement of $100,001. If that is accepted, that'll conclude it. I don't think that's likely, but it does basically put a line in the sand. And if that offer is rejected and it goes to trial and a lesser amount is awarded, or if nothing is awarded, we have the ability to potentially recoup the attorney's fees. Not us, but PRM. So the Ayala matter, we still do not have a ruling. So I think we're now over the 60-day mark. We have a conference, I believe, with
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yeah, Mr. Gonzalez next week, and we're going to see if he thinks it's advisable to start prodding the judge.
Okay. Thank you.
We're paying attorney fees for these things, correct? For the Iola.
We are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Yes.
Okay. Tanya, General Manager's report, please.
Tanya Kennedy, General Manager. A couple things I wanted to mention today. Vote, early vote, or vote on November 8th. I have, mentioned, to the supervisors some of our procedures here in Sun and Lake, so I wanted to talk about those. If you are a landowner in the district or a landowner spouse, during the voting process, you will have to sign an affidavit that you are a registered voter in Highlands County and that you own land, or that you are a landowner spouse. So I encourage, everyone to take advantage. We do have 2 seats. We have 4 people on the ballot running for those 2 seats here in Sun and Lake. And another thing I want to mention is that Tanglewood residents are not the same precinct as other residents in the district. The Tanglewood residents are not able to vote for a supervisor. Okay, their precinct is over on Sebring Parkway. The reason being is that they are not a landowner in the district. It's the corporation that owns the land underneath their home. Okay, so I wanted to clarify that even though you may be a registered voter here in Highlands County and a full-time resident, you in Tanglewood, you do not own the land. Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Recycling, Highlands County. I wanted to talk about that a minute. Highlands County does anticipate that the curbside recycling will start in February of 2017. Each person will receive 2 bins. One is for it's going to be 65-gallon recyclable bin. The other is a regular 95-gallon garbage container. Your regular garbage will only be picked up once a week now, no longer twice a week. And the recyclables will be picked up once a week. So it's still going to be 2 times a week, but your normal garbage trash collection will only be once a week now. Okay, and then that was provided to me, and I provided everyone a question and answer segment from the county. Now, just because they anticipate February, doesn't mean that it's going to be February, but I do know that you're going to see an increase in your tax bill, for garbage collections here in the district.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Unfinished business. Any?
None.
New business?
No.
And committee reports? None there, is there?
None. No.
Okay. Public comment?
Early voting starts Saturday, right? I think so.
Tom Costi again. The district has liability insurance that I assume covers the liability of employees and officers of the district. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do we expect any insurance reimbursement for any of these legal fees that we've been accumulating, not only on the Sunshine Law and the Griffin matter, but also on the Ayala matter?
In the Ayala matter, we have, in 2012, we retained Thompson Sizemore Gonzalez to handle part of the case. The other part of the case is handled by our insurance company, Public Risk Management. Without going into extensive details, we have hired an attorney. We do not expect reimbursement for the Thompson Gonzalez, because it's outside the scope of what the insurance company will cover.
And that's
so there is.
We've been informed of that by the insurance company?
No, we have not. No. The reason we hired Thompson Sizemore in 2012 was to cover what the insurance company would not. And that is my understanding from 2012.
Do we have an accounting on the Ayala matter? Do we know how much we've spent on that case? And did we put an hourly limit, and have we set a cap on that? Has the board discussed those issues similar to what we discussed earlier about these cases?
The board has not. I do have that accounting, yes. I do have it.
Okay, it's been going on for like 4 years now.
It's been going on for about 4 years, yes.
Yeah. Okay, it'd be interesting to get a report on that. Thank you.
Good morning, Carol Schaffmeister, resident of Sun and Lake. Tanya, can you tell me, will the trash pickup be the same time for the recycle bins as well as regular trash, or will they be 2 separate days?
It's going to be 2 separate days. One day will be the recyclables, the other day will be regular garbage.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And the Progressive will send a letter to every resident explaining if, what days will be recyclable, what days will be garbage. So you expect a letter, the county can't confirm when that's going to be.
Okay. Any more public comment?
Wow.
Okay. Discussion to and from the board. I might note to the public that you'll have a chance for your opinions when we're done with it. This time is allotted to the board to eliminate problems with the Sunshine Law so that we can talk about things, discuss things, and decide if we want to bring something up in the future for a resolution or the directions that we may want to go. Mark, I'll start with you. Excuse me. Look one way and mention the other way. So.
Okay, based on some of the past conversations, the last 2 meetings, I've just kind of thrown together a little bit of a list of what I would like to see discussed, maybe prioritized, and figure out where we're going to go in the next year with these. These are all items that happen to be on the 5-year plan, and then some additional items. So what I've done is, as I say, I put a quick list together. This is clearly not a full list. People can add to it, but it's, I think, a starting point. So I'd like to give each one of you guys a list, give you 2 or 3 minutes to kind of prioritize them, scale on 1 to 10, let's say, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest priority in your mind.
Okay.
Is that all right?
That's fine.
We had a couple of these. Snuck into them. Feel free to add to them as well.
Okay, yeah.
No, the highest being, no, the lowest is 1.
Yeah.
And what I'll do after everybody puts this together, maybe for the next meeting, we can kind of, I'll consolidate them, see where the area of interest lies. If we want to pursue discussion on it, so be it. If not, then we'll move on to the next items. But since we have a lot of money in the budget plan for the next 5 years and a lot of what I believe might be unexpected costs, I think it's probably a good time to start working on these.
Mr. Camp, did you want me to read your list for you?
You can,
Okay.
sure, by all means. I mean, they're
Okay.
filling it out, but you can read it for the rest of the people here, or I could do it. It doesn't matter. I'll tell you. I'll just do it. Save you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Currently, we have a number of items on the 5-year plan. Some of them have also just been discussions where we've had consultants come in and look at some of our facilities. There's no particular order on these. I've just listed them, and they're going to rank them. One of them is our new district office construction or renovation project. I'm not sure quite where we're going with that, but we know it needs to be done, and it's estimated somewhere in the $1 million to $1.5 million range. They talked a little bit about clubhouse expansion project in the $750,000 range, swimming pool expansion $1.2 million, community center renovation $500,000, golf stay and play another $800,000, drainage is over $800,000, roads over $800,000. The Unit 4 surge tank upgrades is in the $400,000 range. On here also I've had discussions for possible increases in our golf memberships as well as increases in the district assessments, because we need to look at some ways to pay for some of the costs here. And a co-marketing program with the county and possibly some of the other golf courses to market, Sun and Lake as well as Sebring as a community, so we can bring more people in, hopefully buying property as well as increasing memberships. That's kind of the idea.
Okay.
Feel free to add.
Wally, you got anything else you would like to talk about?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Rick?
This is a very good list. I think that one of the items on this list, in fact, a couple items on this list should be looked at in long term. But, we've got to look at what Sun and Lakes provides to our community here. And one of the things that I've been trying very hard in the 4 years I've been on this board is to maintain what we have with the amount of money that we take in. It appears that we're doing very well, and I hope to keep on doing very well. I don't want to see us go out and start raising our fees and just to expand and keep expanding. I've noticed that we're starting to get a lot of new homes in here, and I think that that's going to increase our income, and I think that's going to help us pay for some of these items on this list. So let's kind of keep this in mind before we go out and start deciding on increasing fees, before we jump into the bandwagon here. One item I'd like to see us look at is this piece of property that we have over here on the circle that maybe we can finagle, that we could move our district office to. And I think that would be a move that maybe our district attorney could look into and see if we can't manipulate the price down a little bit and buy that piece of property for our future new district office. Other than that, I have nothing else to say at this time.
Okay. I got a couple of things. First, I wanted to mention, I thought we were going to bring, all of us were going to bring a list today about the upgrades for what we think is important in the district, as far as the clubhouse, the kitchen, the district office. But with Mark doing this, maybe we can do that at a different time. But I just want to state that I don't think we can wait too long anymore to do something about the kitchen. I think it's something we need to start working on right now, and expanding it. I'm not so sure I want to work on expanding the facilities here yet, because I think we got to work out a lot of things here. Because if we expand it, we're going to have twice as much more business, and we're going to move more residents and more golfers someplace else again. And that's not the reason we're building these buildings, for outside people. We want to, this building was built for the residents and the members. And Jim even mentioned how much outside business we're doing, which is good. But if we don't have a place for the Sun and Lake people and our members, then we're in a lot of trouble. And so, but I think we can expand the kitchen and talk about other expansions. But I really believe for us to take care of what we need now, and we do need a bigger kitchen for Kevin.
Yeah.
And I'd like that, Tanya, I don't know if there's, I think we talked once before, is there a possibility we could borrow the money? I mean, is that an option?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We believe it is an option, yes.
Could we maybe at the next meeting or something start talking about the expansion of the kitchen? Because I really believe if we need to get that going to take care of our problems now. That is a real problem we have right now. And it can only help, but I'd like that to be pushed a little more just because we need it now. I mean, it's something that has to be done. I don't want to lose Kevin over it either. I mean, we need to get something going so we can take care of members and residents first. Okay? So I don't know how we can pursue this, but I just think we need to be working on it.
We've got a man in the audience that we're going to bring up to the mic in a minute.
Oh, okay. I saw Kevin there beside Jim, but I didn't know.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. And this list, here again, is not anything that I kind of came up with. It's all in the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And my concern is exactly the same as probably a lot of other people. Is some of these things are absolutely a wish list in my mind, and they would be a priority, a very, very low priority. And
that's what I meant, Mark.
And quite a ways out. But we do have these things kind of out there, and we either eliminate them and get them off the kind of the schedule, and then prioritize the ones, whatever they might be. And I don't know what the answer. Maybe it's drainage. Clearly, I was under the impression that we were doing something with the kitchen for Kevin. I thought that was...
Well, we could have been, but we don't know about it if we were, and that's,
So
I just think we need to us talk about, because I can't talk to you guys about that.
we can't do it because of the violations in the Sunshine Law.
But we need to do something about the kitchen and do it quick.
Okay.
Okay? I got one other.
Got one other?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can I delay it a minute
Yes,
and
sir.
bring Kevin up?
Yep.
Kevin, would you come up to the podium, please?
I apologize for the typo error.
Kevin, I guess, give us a little bit of your thoughts on this. Time frame, I presume the kitchen would have to be shut down for a period?
Yes, sir.
So that needs to be done in the summer?
Yes.
Okay. What, June and July and August? What are you thinking?
Yeah, depending on, again, I'm a chef, not a...
I understand that.
Architect, but I would think at least 2 months. But what I would like to do, if this goes through and this happens, is set up some kind of food service that we can take care of our golfers.
Sandwich of some kind?
Sandwiches, soup, things like that we can set up somewhere so we're still serving our guests and our members during that period.
Okay. Okay.
What do we need to do to get this moving?
We need to hire an architect first.
We have consultant money, about $110,000, and I anticipated hiring an architect to either look at the clubhouse or whatever the board decides today. If we want to move forward, we would advertise for proposals for architectural services related to this building. If that is something the board wants me to pursue, we can start that process.
Kevin, let me ask a question. If we build on to the kitchen and get you some room out there, which I know you desperately need, and we enclose the patio so that I don't know how many people that would seat, but they're talking about they need a small office someplace, so maybe take a small room off of it, but the bulk of all of the lanai would be glassed in. That should seat from 50 to 75, I would guess.
At least.
Would that suffice your needs for a while until we actually see where we're at with the banquets? I know it would be nice to have this room blown way up and twice as big as it is, but in reality, you're probably talking $2 million just in this area alone to do it. Would that suffice the needs and kind of help cover you as far as doing the kitchen and the lanai together?
Yeah, I think that would give us more seating. I think one of our biggest challenges is our dinner rush and seating for our members when they come in off the course, and I believe that would definitely help that situation.
Okay. Well, if we do hire an architect, we would encourage you to work closely with him to get. I presume we need somebody that understands restaurant-type kitchens, which none of us do. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, I would need a consultant. I know what I need, but as far as the layout of it, because there's so much involved that I don't know about electrical, all that stuff, drains, those grease traps out there. There's a lot to it, but it would help out a lot. I think with in addition of a cold line where we can do more salads, more desserts, a banquet kitchen. Right now we absolutely have no room to prepare, especially in the afternoon. That's our window, and our restaurant is constant. We have 3 ovens. That is a challenge. There's, I can go on and on. Storage. Safety is a big factor here. We're very fortunate to have employees that have been here since day one or a few years, And if you ever stick your head in there on a Saturday night around 6 o'clock when there's a banquet going on and 2 big golf groups coming in, it's pretty crazy in there. So I think safety is a big issue. And,
Okay?
Yeah.
Any questions for Kevin before we go back to work?
If we give you and blow out the kitchen and give you what you want in the kitchen, the rest of this facility is capable of handling what you need.
Yes.
The way it is.
Yeah, it would be.
Okay.
And I can give you examples if you want.
All right. That's what I want to know. I'm all for expanding the kitchen and giving you what you need. I know, because I was here when they wanted this to be nothing more than a hot dog and a hamburger stand. Okay? That was several boards back. Okay? And I knew that's not what was going to happen here. All right? But I don't want to start putting Band-Aids on this. Okay? And I think closing in the lanai out here is putting Band-Aids on it. Let's wait and do it right. Let's get the kitchen done properly and then go from there. Okay?
Great.
All right.
Okay.
Probably ought to talk about the lanai now that there seems to be a difference of opinion. How do those supervisors feel about enclosing that lanai and providing more seating under air conditioning?
Tanya, can I have somebody from the audience come up here and ask a question too?
Sure. I mean, if
Kurt, could you
wants
come
to
up?
entertain that,
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
I had you down here to put you on the spot, but I remember when I was out in the audience a year or so ago, you had a proposal to enclose that. I just got to briefly look at it, but in that proposal, was there any expansion out a little and then up in that proposal? It was just closing it off.
The actual structure of the building wouldn't change. It's just more or less glassing in the screened area, and it was only doing half of it, not the whole thing.
Okay.
And then adding blinds and flooring and air conditioning.
Do you off the top, did you ever get a price or anything on that?
I did a rough estimate. I went around and got a material list, and I figured it'd be around $50,000 to $75,000 at that time.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to do that to you, but I just knew you would know about that. So.
That just did it next to the lake, is that right?
Yeah. South end of the
Okay. Go ahead, Jim.
Jim Kurtzborn, General Manager. One of the things that's a little bit difficult in my mind when you're up in the air as to what you're doing is you don't want to put money into something that you end up redoing. But when we are going to have the most demand for that area, say we had a new kitchen, it's going to be in the season. They are a little bit on the expensive side, but there are Visqueen roll-down drapes that we could actually use that would definitely block off that area. And in your high peaks of demand, so from November through April, would give us an idea of the utilization of that. It doesn't really help you in the summer, where you need the air conditioning, but really that's not the time that we have our major demands. So those aren't cheap, but if we did get to the point where we had the kitchen that could actually service more people, because one of the challenges now, if you built, if the lanai was all screened in and you don't have a bigger kitchen, then you actually have patrons that you can't service. But once your capacity of the kitchen goes up, especially in season, you could definitely do some some things to that patio that are very inexpensive, say, with a $10,000 budget of big Bahama fans to make it look better, with the visqueen roll down, and it would definitely give you an idea of, that utilization, and then you could go forward if it was highly utilized. It would give you a picture into the future. But it is a little bit of an outlay of funds, but it would give you a good feedback, and it would definitely, when you look at a per square foot type number, it gives you a lot of square footage for not too much outlay.
Okay. Jim, while we're talking, I just want to make sure that, and I meant that when I said, if we do this kitchen and we do that out there, can I assure the people, our members and our Sun and Lake people, that we're not going to be closed down more, or we're going to have places for our members to come in? I mean, because that's a big
definitely
point
the thing that you can assure them is, and it's even now, I've reached out to the golf committee, we're looking for member involvement and supervisor involvement in the long term of how we utilize the building. So we're not, and when I say we, I know I work for Billy Casper, but I don't work for Billy Casper. I work for the members here in the district. And so the thing is it's really just developing an understanding of how to utilize, the building and really thinking ahead, and planning ahead. That's what we need, that's what we're working on. With this being my second year of seeing the season, it's definitely going to be a big plus, and communication is a big deal. But I think to answer your question is, it doesn't make sense to me to push your owners, so your district residents and your members out, to have outsiders in. That isn't something that makes sense to me. So that's something we need to work on, and basically you need to make it a real fine machine of understanding. Wednesday night is a big night, handling Wednesday night. Monday night isn't as big a night. It's really just understanding as you go. But yes, you can guarantee that the end game, the mission, is our district residents and our members.
Good. And just so you know, in the future when we start this, I don't know about the rest of the members, but I'm going to be a pain about this. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, from what I'm hearing from you, are you in favor of letting Tanya look into getting bids for do we need bids for an architect?
We need to do a bid, yes. We're going to go through the bid process and receive proposals.
Are you in favor of her getting bids on it and looking into it so we can go ahead and get started? Because it will take a while.
I'm definitely in favor, and I'm not looking for the same situation we had 2 months ago, where they came in and they said, blow out this wall, blow out that wall. What I'm looking at is giving Kevin the ability to do his job in the most efficient way. That being the priority out there, priority number one. I think that the fallback as far as the area outside and some of the ideas that Jim came up with is part of that. But my thought process, the priority should be setting that up. And then we'll expand. This particular room, I don't know, and I kind of look in here a lot. We have a lot of seating capacity, but we put everybody, it appears, in the other room. And I know that Jim's organization is working on it, as he mentioned earlier, about looking at flow and seating. That wall is rarely open. We tend to put everybody in that room. So I'm not so sure we have a huge capacity problem right now, even in the height of the season, as far as seating people. But we have a bigger problem serving them, because Kevin's working in an environment that, like you said, was designed for hot dogs and hamburgers, or as Rick said. So that's just my thought.
I think that whoever we hire or whoever we're going out for bids for should be working strictly on the kitchen. I don't see us having to worry about anything else in this building at the time being.
Probably won't cost you any more to get both of them together than it will one.
Larry? We're worried about the kitchen. That's what we want to take. That's what we want to take care of. So let's worry about the kitchen. We'll worry about anything else later.
Okay.
I would just like to, so we don't get another report like we got here in the past, I'd like to sit with the board, sit down with the person who does get the bid and tell them exactly what we're looking for and what we want from them. We want, whether it be the drawings or whatever, because I've been through this at federal courthouses, and I'm telling you, you get down with those engineers or those architects and so forth and tell me exactly what I want to see, how many outlets on the walls to the fans, everything, and we'll get a better result. So I'd like to have a meeting.
We can do a workshop, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I go for that.
One more thing I do want to mention is the lack of office space in this building. And this is coming from me. I know I've talked with Jim about it, but I feel that the golf shop, the pro shop employees, along with the other employees that work here, with a couple of office spaces to the right, we have a lack of office space here. If you've noticed, could be up to 3 to 4 people crammed in one office over in the pro shop. The storage space we do lack, but now we do have storage across the street. But I just want for you to be visual of that too. That I feel that there is a lack of office space here in this building.
That's the meeting I'm talking about.
Yes.
Now we may come back with in the end just enough money to do the kitchen, which would be a top priority. But once we get them in here and they bring the good stuff, then we can make that monetary decision then.
Okay. So go ahead and get that started.
Okay.
I don't want to.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to talk to the board about, most of you know that I go to Orlando and Ocala and the east side to play golf every winter a lot, and I've met a lot of people up there and talked to people about Sun and Lake. And there's a lot of people in Orlando that are snowbirds, that rent, that pay tremendous prices for golf courses, and I want to get together. That's a meeting I told you about I'd like to have with you all, to sit down and form some type of committee of how to approach that group to move them out of Orlando to Sun and Lake. Because if you go up there and you talk to people, they're paying out just outrageous rent up there, which we can give them down here cheaper. And 2 golf courses that they would love to play now, because the golf courses are coming in pretty good shape. So I'd like to sit down with you and then we can decide who ought to be on that committee, and then start working on that. Try to get publications.
A marketing committee?
A marketing committee, absolutely.
Okay.
That's one thing. You talk about the wreck across the street over there. I approached those people after Sun and Lake was turned down. I approached those people about buying that. They were outrageous. I mean, there must be gold over there or something. I don't know. I didn't see.
Maybe Severino buried some gold.
Maybe that's where he hid all the money.
Okay. The district office we have on here to talk about the future of it. We've got a man coming in this next week. I believe you said Thursday, to do a mold study on it. Air study, and basically that needs to be set aside till we see where we're at, what's going on there. The fitness center is the same way. It's kind of part of that's going to depend on what happens to the district office over here. So, any of the board members got anything else they want to bring up before we turn it over to public comment?
Yes, I do. Didn't we talk to Tanya or mention last meeting we're going to take care of the problem, whatever it is, at the district office?
We're having a mold assessment on Thursday. I think that's the first step. We're going to look.
Okay, then you don't need, if you need okay to fix it, and when they do it, go ahead and do it.
No, we're going to go ahead and do it. It was a $2,000 fee
Well,
that he's going to charge and provide a report after the assessment. So we're moving forward with that.
And it's the same way with the roof. If, get it checked out, get prices, because we're going to fix it. It's got to get fixed. So, and I have one more thing, Larry, on the drainage, and I'll talk to Drew and Tanya afterwards, but it's about our process and how we picked these three, and we got your list of the top 3 priorities, but I went out and talked to them all. I didn't realize that you'd only got quotes for the top 3. So in a sense, in my mind, of course, I didn't even know what was going on, that we were going to work on the drainage right now. But I just like, if we do this, anything like this in the future, and we have a list, I'd like to have quotes from our prices on all of them, so the supervisors can pick what 3 they want. And it's no big deal, other than, to me, it looked like we were force-fed these top 3 people, or top 3 items, and it probably wasn't, but I'd like the whole thing so the supervisors can decide what 3 things we want to do, and it's just I guess a process of how we do things.
We are working on to get some more quotes on some of the items that are at the bottom of the list. One thing we did do is try to get a quote from Matanzas, and we couldn't find anyone to give us a quote on that. Okay, so far. Is that correct, Drew? Yeah, so that is a very extensive project, for Matanzas, and if we find that we may have a very difficult time with that project. And what number is that one on the list? I'm sorry, I don't have the drainage in front of me.
It's 2 or 3.
Yeah,
Matanzas?
4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
so
down
we did
past
try.
the 3.
We did try before we brought and just for your information, this is what management's recommending. We've provided you some recommendations. Right. If you feel that we need to look into different options, we can certainly do so. But these are. The first 3 items, we internally met and we talked about what we felt the priorities were based on prior knowledge, based on how many years that these issues have been in that situation.
And I understand that, and I would have probably went along with what Drew wanted or you want, but I feel as a supervisor, I need to know the costs in case there's something that we want a little different than what you think is it just. When I started asking the questions, I asked what this costs, that cost. You didn't have any costs except the top 3. So that's telling me, well, that's the 3 we're going to do. And I don't like that process. And it might not make any difference whether I like it or not. But I just think we need to know a little more and have more input on what we do here, because we're the ones that are going to get the calls. And I've already got calls.
Well, working on Columbus too. We don't have quotes for that. We provided you, the information that we had.
I agree with what you guys did. I just would like the process done a little different, where we're more involved. That's all.
Okay. Understood.
Wally, you had something?
Yeah, I just had one thing I wanted to ask David about. Kind of get your opinion on this. On the sunshine law, if someone files a complaint against me on the sunshine law, they file it with the State Ethics Committee, right?
I guess there's a couple of different options, but that would be my, if they want some sort of action taken, like if they want charges brought, they're going to have to bring it either to the State Ethics Committee or potentially to the State Attorney's Office.
Okay, that was what my question was. The situation that we've been in, I know in the sunshine law it's written that if someone brings an act, accuses one of the board members at the state level, and it is found that we did not commit breaking the sunshine law, that we can sue the complainant who filed a complaint so they pay for our legal fees.
I have to check on that because arguably, like if someone brings in a complaint, because the way that resolution and now that policy is written is that there is an indemnified party is not entitled to seek representation paid by the district until an actual complaint has been filed, whether that be a civil complaint or a criminal complaint. Until legal proceedings have actually been initiated, there's no entitlement to indemnification. So if it's a cursory thing where some citizen is going to the state attorney's office and just, making an accusation, if the state attorney's office starts investigating, you're not at that point entitled, to indemnification because no charges have actually been filed, no complaint has been filed.
Well, what I was getting to is once a complaint has been filed against any of us, and we prove that complainant incorrect. I read it in the Sunshine Law, it's just a paragraph down below, the reasonable statement, that we have the right to sue that complainant for our legal fees.
Okay.
And if you would, I just wonder if that would move itself to the next phase of if the state attorney general and whoever filed those charges with the state attorney general's office, who's been mentioned who that was, do we have any rights if one of them was dismissed and one of them was deferred? Do we have any rights there?
I'll check to see what it did. As far as the district goes, or the individual supervisor, I'll check into that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Open it up for public comment.
Larry.
We're satisfied all that?
Thank you.
Okay. We're adjourned.
Next. I'm going to try to get that Gonzalez phone conference.
Yeah.
To 8:30.
I was kind of hoping to go strong record.
Can you come by my office?
I need your slip.